Alaska, the last frontier, a land of rugged beauty, untamed wilderness, and unparalleled isolation. It's a place where people go to escape, to find adventure, to disappear. But for some, the vast Alaskan landscape becomes a graveyard, a silent witness to unspeakable horrors. This is the story of one such horror, the story of Robert Hansen, the butcher baker. Hansen's crimes cast a long shadow over the last frontier, a chilling reminder that darkness can lurk even in the most remote corners of the world. Robert Hansen was a family man, a respected member of the Anchorage community. He ran a successful bakery, providing fresh bread and pastries to his neighbors. He was a familiar face, a man who inspired trust and confidence. No one suspected the darkness that lurked beneath the surface. No one imagined that the friendly baker was leading a double life, a life shrouded in secrecy and violence. Hansen was an experienced hunter, intimately familiar with the Alaskan wilderness. He used this knowledge to his advantage, turning the vast, unforgiving landscape into his personal hunting ground. For Hansen, the thrill of the hunt was paramount. He stalked his victims, relishing their fear and desperation. He would abduct women, often forcing them into his plane under the pretense of offering them work or transportation. He would then fly them deep into the wilderness, far from civilization, where he would release them into the unforgiving terrain. Armed with a rifle and a hunting knife, he would track them through the dense forests and across the frozen tundra. For Hansen's victims, the ordeal was a terrifying descent into a nightmare. They were hunted like animals, their lives at the mercy of a predator who treated their suffering as a game. The vastness of the Alaskan wilderness, once a symbol of freedom and escape, became a prison, a place of unimaginable terror. Hansen's reign of terror would continue for years, his crimes hidden beneath the veil of the Alaskan wilderness. But even in the most remote corners of the world, justice has a way of finding its way home. Robert Hansen's journey into darkness began in Estherville, Iowa. Born in 1939, he was a child of the American heartland. Behind the facade of normalcy, a storm was brewing within him. His father, a Danish immigrant, was stern and demanding. Discipline was harsh and displays of emotion were rare. Robert struggled to meet his father's standards. Under his father's expectations, Robert retreated into himself. As Hansen grew older, his stutter became more pronounced, further isolating him from his peers. His classmates mocked his halting speech, turning his every attempt at communication into an ordeal. Hansen turned to his father's trade, baking, finding solace in the solitary rhythm of the work. Yet his stutter remained a barrier, preventing him from fully embracing the social aspect of his craft. Starved of genuine connection, Robert Hansen retreated into a world of his own making. In his fantasies, he was a figure of strength and authority. His fantasies revolved around power and control, particularly over women. As his fantasies grew darker, the line between reality and imagination began to blur. Tragically, this world would eventually bleed into his reality with devastating consequences. In 1967, Robert Hansen moved to Anchorage, Alaska, seeking a fresh start. The last frontier seemed perfect for Hansen to reinvent himself. Anchorage's raw beauty held a different allure for him. The vast wilderness awakened a dark instinct within him. Hansen quickly acclimated, embracing the Alaskan lifestyle. He honed his skills, mastering firearms and survival, but as he delved deeper into Alaska, he ventured into his own darkness. In Anchorage, Robert Hansen meticulously crafted a new persona for himself. He married, started a family, and established Hansen's Bakery. The bakery became a symbol of his carefully constructed facade of normalcy. He was a pillar of the community, a hard-working baker, a devoted husband and father. His bakery became a popular gathering spot for locals. No one suspected the darkness that simmered beneath the surface. His bakery became his stage, a place where he could perform the role of the ordinary baker. For Robert Hansen, the Alaskan wilderness was a twisted sanctuary, a place to shed his persona and embrace his darkest impulses. He found a perverse sense of freedom, a release from societal norms he despised. The wilderness mirrored his growing coldness. He felt a kinship with the predators, their instinct to hunt echoing his own desires. He saw himself as wild and untamed. The women he abducted became his prey. Hansen is believed to have begun killing around 1972. His modus operandi is believed to have been to stalk a woman to learn her habits, eventually picking her up in his car and forcing her at gunpoint to his home, where he would assault her. He may then have taken the woman to a secluded area and hunted her as if she were wild game before shooting or stabbing her. Some of the women Hansen murdered were sex workers, many were teenagers. From hunter to hunted, the escalation of a predator's game. Hansen's crime started, a twisted game with his victims and authorities struggling to make sense of the disappearances. He abducted women, flew them into the Alaskan wilderness, and released them, giving a cruel illusion of hope. Armed with a rifle and a hunting knife, he stalked them, relishing their fear. The thrill of the hunt became a dangerous addiction. It is believed by authorities that Hansen's first murder victim was 18-year-old Celia Van Zanten. Van Zanten was kidnapped on December 22, 1971, and froze to death in the wilderness after escaping from her abductor. Her body was discovered on December 25th. With each victim, the game escalated, his methods more brutal. He meticulously documented his crimes, keeping trophies hidden away. His arrogance grew with each successful hunt, believing he was untouchable. The remains of Eklutna Annie were discovered buried next to a power line in a wooded area, 1 mile south of South Eklutna Lake Road in Eklutna, Anchorage, Alaska on July 21, 1980. Hansen admitted to stabbing her in the back after she made an effort to flee from his car. She was either a dancer or a prostitute, according to Hansen. Despite his claim that Eklutna Annie might have come from Kodiak, Alaska, troopers think she might have arrived in Alaska via California. Her body had already been largely consumed by wildlife when it was found in a shallow grave near Eklutna Lake Road. Another one of his victims was 24-year-old local dancer Joanna Messina, who went out to dinner with Hansen on May 19, 1980, while she was working in Seward, Alaska. According to Hansen, before Messina offered him sex in exchange for cash, everything was going smoothly. Hansen refused to pay and refused to release her, so he drove her and her dog to a distant place by the Snow River. He hit her with a .22 caliber revolver before shooting her twice and the dog once. He brought Messina's body to a gravel pit nearby and dumped gravel over her body. The dog and Messina's belongings were thrown into the woods, and the gun was thrown into the Snow River. On July 8, 1980, her severely decomposed body was found after it had been eviscerated by wildlife. At the nightclub she worked at in Anchorage, Lisa Futrell met and was subsequently kidnapped by Hansen on September 6, 1980. When the 41-year-old failed to return home following her September 7th shift at the club, her 2 younger housemates reported her missing. Her body was discovered on May 9, 1984, buried next to a gravel pit south of the former Knik Arm Bridge. The wilderness became both a hunting ground and a silent accomplice to Robert Hansen's crimes. Its dense forests provided cover, its frozen rivers concealed evidence. The silence of the wilderness was a shroud, muffling the screams of his victims. He knew the land intimately and used it to his advantage. The elements conspired with him, erasing his tracks, burying his victims. The isolation made it easier for him to operate undetected. At 11 p.m. on December 2, 1981, Andrea Mona Fish Altieri, 24, was last seen boarding a taxi to go to the Boniface Mall in Anchorage, Alaska. She intended to meet an unnamed male for a photo shoot and to perform exotic dances. She has not been seen or heard from since. When authorities searched Hansen's house, several of Altieri's possessions, including her fish necklace, were discovered. Hansen claimed that after he met her, he threatened her with a gun and abducted her, blindfolding and handcuffing her. Near the Knik Arm Bridge, they took a car to a service road off Palmer Highway. He unbound her there and abused her sexually. He killed her with a .22 Browning automatic pistol after she retaliated. He then stole Altieri's necklace, weighted a duffel bag with gravel, tied it to the dead woman, and threw her off the bridge and into the Knik River. Her body was never found. Paula Goulding, 30, another one of his victims, was a dancer in Anchorage. On April 25, 1983, Hansen offered her money before kidnapping her. He drove her to his aircraft, and once they reached a remote spot, she fought with him and attempted to get away, according to Hansen. She fled, and he fired a .223 rifle at her, killing her. On September 2, 1983, she was discovered on the Knik River, buried in a shallow grave. Robert Hansen's crimes stole countless lives, a haunting mystery. Officially linked to 17 deaths, the true number may be far greater. Each victim represented lost potential, dreams shattered, families torn apart. They were daughters, sisters, mothers, friends, woven into the community's fabric. Their stories reflect the diverse tapestry of humanity in Anchorage. Their lives, though cut short, resonate in the hearts of those who loved them. Many of Robert Hansen's victims were women living on the margins of society, prostitutes, runaways, dancers, and those struggling with addiction or homelessness. Their lives, often marked by hardship and instability, made them easy targets for a predator like Hansen. Their disappearances, while tragic, were often met with indifference by a society that viewed them as somehow less deserving of attention. Their stories relegated to the back pages of newspapers or dismissed entirely. Hansen, cunning and calculating, understood this dynamic all too well. He knew that these women were less likely to be reported missing, their absences less likely to spark widespread outrage or intense investigation. He exploited their vulnerabilities, their need for money or transportation, luring them into his web of terror with promises of quick cash or a ride to a supposed job opportunity. Once they were in his clutches, their fate was sealed. Their stories, often overlooked or minimized, highlight a tragic reality of many serial killer cases. The disproportionate targeting of marginalized communities, those whose voices are often silenced or ignored by the very systems meant to protect them. Hansen's crimes exposed the dark underbelly of Anchorage, revealing the cracks in society where vulnerability festers and predators thrive. For the families of Robert Hansen's victims, the pain of their loss was compounded by years of uncertainty. Many endured the torment of not knowing what had happened to their loved ones. The Alaskan wilderness became a haunting symbol of their unknown fate. Some clung to hope, while others grappled with the grim reality of their loss. The lack of closure weighed heavily on these families. While the media often focused on the sensational aspects of Robert Hansen's crimes, it was important to remember that each victim was more than just a name on a list or a photograph in a police file. They were daughters, sisters, mothers, friends, women with dreams, aspirations, and lives that extended far beyond their encounters with a monster. There was Celia Van Zanten, a young woman known for her infectious laughter and her love of dancing. She had moved to Alaska from the Midwest, seeking adventure and a fresh start, only to have her life tragically cut short. And there was Megan Emmerich, a gifted artist who found solace in expressing herself through her paintings. She had a kind heart and a gentle spirit, her presence missed by all who knew her. These glimpses into the lives of the victims, though fleeting and incomplete, serve as a powerful reminder of their humanity, their individuality, and the richness of their experiences. They challenge us to look beyond the headlines and the grim details of their deaths, and to see them as they truly were, vibrant individuals with hopes, dreams, and loved ones who mourned their loss. June 13, 1983. The pre-dawn light cast long, eerie shadows across Anchorage. Cindy Paulson, a young woman, found herself face-to-face with Robert Hansen. Lured into his car, she quickly realized the terrifying truth. This was not a transaction. It was a descent into a nightmare. Hansen drove Cindy deep into the Alaskan wilderness. The further they traveled, the more palpable her fear became. Reaching a secluded cabin, Hansen's true intentions became clear. He bound her, his words laced with menace. Cindy clung to hope, searching for a way out. As Hansen left her unattended, Cindy knew this was her only chance. It was now or never. A glimmer of hope, reaching for help in the darkness. Cindy made a desperate bid for freedom. Fueled by adrenaline, she freed herself and slipped into the pre-dawn darkness. The forest offered a chance at escape, her bare feet slapping against the rough terrain. She ran blindly, her lungs burning. Emerging onto a desolate highway, she saw a flicker of light, a truck stop. Stumbling towards it, her spirit unbroken, Cindy prayed for help. She burst through the doors, a frantic figure in the quiet diner. Tears streamed down her face as she recounted her tale. Her desperate plea for help echoed in the silence. Cindy's relief at finding help quickly turned to frustration and despair as she encountered a wall of disbelief and skepticism from the very people who were supposed to protect her. Law enforcement, accustomed to dealing with the rougher elements of Anchorage's underbelly, viewed her claims through a jaded lens. Her story dismissed as the ramblings of a drug-addled prostitute. Despite the terror etched on her face, the genuine fear that radiated from her every word and gesture, her cries for help were met with doubt and suspicion. Her past, her struggles with addiction, and her involvement in sex work were used against her, her trauma minimized and her experience invalidated. The police, focused on verifying her story rather than ensuring her safety, seemed more interested in catching her in a lie than in catching her attacker. They questioned her relentlessly, their tone accusatory, their skepticism palpable. Cindy, already traumatized by her ordeal, found herself re-traumatized by the very system that was supposed to protect her. Her pain compounded by a profound sense of betrayal and injustice. As Cindy's story bounced around the Anchorage Police Department, dismissed by some and met with indifference by others, it eventually landed on the desk of a seasoned detective, Sergeant Glenn Floth. Floth, known for his meticulous nature and his unwavering commitment to seeking justice for the victims of violent crime, had been investigating the disappearances of several women from the Anchorage area. He had a hunch that these cases, though seemingly unconnected, were the work of a single perpetrator, a predator operating in the shadows, exploiting the vastness of the Alaskan wilderness and the vulnerabilities of his victims. Something about Cindy's story, despite its inconsistencies and the doubts cast upon it by others, resonated with Floth. He saw past the labels, past the societal judgments that had been placed upon her, and recognized the raw terror in her eyes, the authenticity of her fear. He believed her. Floth, driven by a combination of intuition and a deep-seated sense of justice, made a decision that would change the course of the investigation and ultimately bring an end to Robert Hansen's reign of terror. He would trust his gut. He would trust Cindy, and he would pursue every lead, no matter how small, until he brought the monster responsible for these crimes to justice. Sergeant Floth, armed with Cindy Paulson's harrowing account and his own growing suspicions, began to meticulously piece together the puzzle that was Robert Hansen. He dug deeper into the missing persons cases, noting the chilling similarities, the victims' profiles, their connection to the city's underbelly, the eerie absence of any trace of them in the vast Alaskan wilderness. He delved into Hansen's background, uncovering a history of troubled relationships with women, a pattern of predatory behavior that had long been ignored or dismissed. Floth interviewed Hansen's acquaintances, neighbors, and fellow pilots, noting their surprise at his involvement in the investigation, their disbelief that the quiet, unassuming Baker could be capable of such horrific acts. He subpoenaed Hansen's flight records, painstakingly charting his flights over the Alaskan wilderness. the dates and locations aligning with the disappearances of several women. The evidence, though circumstantial, was mounting, forming a damning picture of Hansen's movements and his connection to the missing women. Flode, sensing that he was closing in on a predator who had hidden in plain sight for far too long, intensified his efforts, determined to bring Hansen to justice and to provide answers to the families who had waited years for closure. Unearthing the horrors, a cabin's grim secrets revealed. Armed with a search warrant, Sergeant Flotter and his team descended upon Robert Hansen's secluded cabin. Inside, the scene that greeted them sent chills down their spines. They uncovered a hidden compartment beneath the floorboards. Inside lay a collection of items that made their blood run cold. The hunter's web unravels, a confession and a map to buried truths. Faced with the mounting evidence, Cindy Paulson's harrowing testimony, the incriminating items found in his cabin, and the damning flight records that placed him at the scenes of multiple disappearances, Robert Hansen's carefully constructed facade began to crumble. The hunter, accustomed to being the pursuer, now found himself the hunted, trapped in a web of his own making. Under the relentless pressure of Sergeant Flodder's interrogation, Hansen's carefully crafted wall of silence cracked. He confessed to his crimes, his words a chilling blend of remorse and a disturbing detachment that sent shivers down the spines of even the most seasoned investigators. As part of a plea deal, Hansen agreed to cooperate with the authorities, leading them to the shallow graves scattered across the Alaskan wilderness where he had buried his victims. He provided a hand-drawn map, each X a chilling marker of a life extinguished, a final act of cruelty that compounded the grief of families who had waited years for answers. The map, a testament to the depravity of Hansen's crimes and the vastness of his hunting ground, became a roadmap to heartbreak, guiding investigators and families on a grim pilgrimage to reclaim the remains of loved ones lost. Justice, at last, a sentence as cold and remote as his crimes. In February 1984, Robert Hansen, the butcher-baker who had terrorized Anchorage for over a decade, stood in a packed courtroom, his crimes laid bare before the world. The man who had once been a respected member of the community, his bakery a symbol of warmth and normalcy, now stood exposed as a monster, his legacy forever stained by the blood of his victims. The judge, his voice echoing through the silent courtroom, sentenced Hansen to 461 years in prison, without the possibility of parole. A sentence as cold and remote as the Alaskan wilderness where he had disposed of his victims. The families of the victims, many of whom had waited years for this moment, watched as the man who had brought so much pain and suffering into their lives was led away in handcuffs. While nothing could bring back the lives that Hansen had taken, the sentence brought a sense of closure, a measure of justice to a community forever scarred by his crimes. The butcher-baker, his reign of terror finally over, would spend the rest of his days behind bars, his crimes a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of even the most ordinary lives. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long, eerie shadows across the snow-covered expanse of the Alaskan wilderness. The silence, broken only by the mournful howl of a distant wolf, seemed to amplify the chilling weight of the crimes that had haunted this land. Robert Hansen, the butcher-baker, was gone, his reign of terror ended by the courage of a survivor and relentless pursuit of justice. Yet the echoes of his crimes continued to reverberate, leaving an indelible mark on Anchorage and the families forever haunted by his name. Hansen's case revealed the chilling depths of human depravity, the capacity for evil to lurk beneath the surface of normalcy. The arrest and conviction of Robert Hansen sent shockwaves through Anchorage. The city, once a beacon of opportunity, had to confront a dark chapter in its history. The revelation sparked outrage, fear, and a profound sense of betrayal. The case cast a long shadow, forcing residents to re-examine their assumptions about safety. Yet, in the aftermath, there was resilience and a determination to honor the victims. Anchorage would heal and rebuild, but never forget the lessons learned. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more chilling true crime stories.